that it's okay to be guarded with your time, and it's okay to have the boundaries with your clients, because, like I only do client meetings on certain days, and I only do, like Tuesdays is an internal day. We only do internal meetings and all that kind of stuff. Like, we've really kind of set boundaries on how we operate, and it's become like such a stress relief to have like a routine. And I find that I'm a little bit more relaxed and I spend more time with my family.
I'm Becca Pountney, wedding business marketing expert, strategist, speaker, and author. Over the last decade, I've combined my love of marketing with my knowledge of the wedding industry to help thousands of wedding pros and venues just like you learn new skills, strategize, get re-energized, and grow their businesses. Because after all, that's how you stay top of your game. Whether you're brand new into this industry or been here forever, I want to help. So grab a cup of tea or a cocktail, sit back and enjoy a brand new episode of my award-winning podcast, Wedding Pros Who Are Ready to Grow. Let's get going with today's episode. Today, I'm chatting with Kevin Dennis, founder of Fantasy Sound Event Services, Wedding IQ, and host of the Mind Your Wedding Business podcast. With over 30 years in the wedding industry and having sat on many wedding industry boards across the US, he has seen the industry shift hugely over the last 3 decades, and he knows the importance of keeping up and staying relevant. He was first a guest on this very podcast back in May 2024, so I'm delighted to have him back here again. Kevin, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you for having me back.
It's an absolute pleasure. I love to have returning guests. And did you know, Kevin, since the last time you were on the podcast, this podcast is now award-winning.
Ooh, I love that. I love that you could just point to the award. That's very...
It's right there for people watching visually. People listening to this podcast will know I love to mention it because it won the best business podcast at the British Podcast Awards, which is an achievement that I'm so proud of and I'm still clinging on to while I am still the champion before someone else gets crowned.
You should, as long as you can.
Absolutely. Now, some people may have heard you on a previous episode. You were last on the podcast, as I said, back in May 2024, episode 111. So if anyone wants to go back and listen, they can. But if anyone hasn't heard of you before, didn't listen to that episode, can you give us a brief history of how you got to the point where you are today?
Sure. I started my company back in 1989, a long time ago. So I'm old. Hence what we're going to talk about today. But I started out as a DJ many years ago. I'm pretty brutally honest about this. I was a nerd, and DJs got the chicks, and I was the way to meet girls when I was 19 years old, was being the DJ. So that's how I became a DJ. But it was about when I turned about 22, when I was like, man, I can actually really make a business out of this. And then that's when I started taking it seriously. And then in 95 is when I decided, you know what, I'm done working for other people and I'm jumping full in. And then so 95 is when I have jumped in, and I've been doing it full time ever since. So our company's evolved over the years from a DJ. So we do a lot of drapery, chandeliers, decor. So we do a lot on the design side. We have a team of coordinators, in-house coordinators. And then we also, of course, have photo booths, because what DJ company shouldn't have photo booths? So that's where we are. You mentioned we have Mind Your Wedding Business podcast, which I'm crawling up. We're at 70 something episodes right now. So we're not as cool as Becca yet, but we're trying to get there. And then I also am the host with one of my coworkers. We host Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married, which is for B2C. So helping couples get married. So
you're doubling up on the podcast. What made you start the podcast? Because last time you were on, you hadn't had your own podcast. So just give people an insight about the world of podcasting. What made you start it? What do you love about it? What do you not love about it?
Okay. I started it because I was done being a WIPA president and on the board. So I was on the national board for 11 or 12 years. It was a long time. And so I had the honor of being a 2-time president. So I was president for 4 years. So I got to really travel. I got to see all the growth of WIPA, but I also got to travel to all the local chapters. And I was continuing getting an education by going to all these different chapter meetings and hearing from all these great speakers. And then COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, I had nothing to do here in California because we were so locked down and we couldn't do events and all that kind of great stuff. And so one of the things I did during that time is I hosted the webinars for WIPA, and I hosted over 60 of them in the year of 2020, and just kept having people come on, and we talked about all kinds of, how are we going to get out of this and all kinds of different things. I even interviewed David Tutera, like randomly just put an email out and said, "Hey, would you like to be on a webinar for WIPA?" And he said yes, and it was great. So doing that and kind of being done with my WIPA life was the reason I was like, as I was doing this, I kept telling Megan Ely, who we both know, I was like, I think I'm going to do a podcast someday because I'm going to miss this, talking to people. So
yeah, it's absolutely my highlight of doing the podcast is just having great conversations with great people and calling it work. And I always say to my guests, just imagine we're just having a cup of coffee together. And that's how I feel like this podcast goes. But it's not always easy. So tell us some of the challenges you find with podcasting.
I'll be honest with you, some of the guests, people don't read. So if you read, and you should wear headphones, and there's lots of things that you should do by be in a quiet room, and not like be in a room with the window open to where we can hear the, sirens go by because you live in a busy city. That's happened. Another challenge is you bring me on because you have something to talk about, and when they answer with yes, oh sure, that's a good idea, expand or stretch, tell me more, and you're having to pull teeth to get information out of the guests. That's always a challenge as well. But I think sometimes too, it's just having time, trying to set away time to record the episodes. I feel like though, we're in company, we've gotten a good rhythm. We learned a lot over the year. I was hiring someone to edit it, and now we actually edit them in-house, and so there's lots of different things we've learned over the years. But I think the biggest challenge is just unfortunately some people come on and they don't talk. So I would say
that is a bit of a problem for a podcast. But it's interesting because if people are listening to this, quite a lot of people say to me when I work to them one-to-one, I'd love to be a guest on more podcasts. I'd love to be on more podcasts. And I always say to them, you absolutely can, but please buy a microphone. If you want to be a guest on a podcast and you want to start doing this, get the equipment, get some stuff going, because a good podcast guest will have a decent microphone, and they don't have to be that expensive. And you know what it's like. We're always looking for new, interesting guests. We're happy to hear from different people, but please have the equipment. We wouldn't show up, I don't know, to a sports game without the right equipment. So we shouldn't turn up to a podcast recording without the right equipment. Right. Enough about podcasting. Now, you said you have been in this industry over 30 years, which is incredible. I want you to be honest though, over that 30 years, have you ever felt like just walking away, just going to get a job in Target, or have you always loved what you did?
I've always loved what I do. I would be honest with you, COVID was the time that I was like, maybe I'm done, because we did our last events the weekend, before the world shut down on March 17th, which, St. Patrick's Day, it's hard to not forget, that's when we shut down here in the US. And so that last weekend, we were doing stuff, and then we didn't do another event until Valentine's Day the following year. So we went almost a whole year with no events, and we kept getting this little carrot. Oh, we're going to open up, or we're going to allow this to happen. But what was driving us nuts is the restaurants in our downtown were having they allowed them to do outdoor dining, and then they allowed them to have bands. And I'm like, I'd go through downtown, just walking with the dogs or whatever. And I'm like, this is this is worse than what we would do for a wedding right now. So it was very frustrating. And that was probably the one time that I was like, drop the mic, I'm out of here, I'm done, kind of thing. But I'll be honest with you, it was the community of people, talking, like I mentioned, I did all those webinars and just talking to everyone. It was that year I was still the president of WIPA. It was my last year being president. And it was just, just hearing whatever other people were going through, and just, I don't know, it kind of kept the hopes alive and all that. And then we got all excited to actually do like in the month, we did 3 events in February, and we thought we were a big deal. And then it went from a few in March to a lot more in April to all of a sudden May started feeling normal, and then, it was normal. We were allowed to have weddings without dancing, which is weird. And people were allowed to stand up and dance at their table. It was the weirdest thing. But I look back at that time, I don't know. Hopefully we never go through that again in our lifetime, but it was such a weird time. We probably should have been journaling and taking notes, so we could have probably wrote a good book about all that stuff. So
yeah, it's so true. And I always think that any wedding business that survived that time and stayed in business after it deserved a medal, because that was a tough time for our industry. Like, people had no work, it was so, so difficult. And you're right, that was definitely a time that I think a lot of people felt like giving up, but actually a lot of people stuck at it. A lot of people found ways through it, and we learned a huge amount from it.
Yeah.
And I think it's normal. Over 30 years, there's got to be times for all of us when we feel like throwing the towel in. I speak to my members sometimes, and they say, sometimes I just wake up in the morning and think, I just wish I had a job at the supermarket today. And then 5 minutes later, they say, actually, I don't think I would want a job. I like my freedom too much. But we all have those moments. It's totally normal. And I think we need to help people understand that it's normal to think that sometimes.
Yeah, I know. I think it's way normal to be thinking that, especially like right now, we're in the middle of our busiest week of the entire year so far. And it's just like, you need to have those little wins. Like, all right, I'm looking ahead. Like, all right, come, Monday, we can relax a little bit, because going backwards, the last 3 Mondays, we've had multiple weddings on, so it just, here in California, I keep joking that we're becoming more and more like Las Vegas. We get weddings every day of the week. Like today, we're recording this episode on a Wednesday. We actually have 2 weddings today. And it just, and we're, I'm 45 minutes east of San Francisco in a little wine country. But all of a sudden we have weddings every day of the week. So it is weird.
Yeah, it is. And that's definitely happening here in the UK as well. We're seeing
more
and more people getting married in the weekdays. I think because venues are getting smart with it. They're giving them better pricing. People can't afford to get married at the weekend, or the weekends are busy. And so, increasingly we're having people get married on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Friday, basically any day of the week, which I think is a good thing for our industry, because it opens it up. It gives us more opportunities, but it is exhausting when you're working.
The one day I do think that people are not too keen on is Tuesday for some reason, because that we've only done 1 wedding so far this year on a Tuesday, but everyone's more jazzed about the Thursdays, the Mondays, and even occasional Wednesday. But yeah, I'm like, what is it about Tuesday? So.
No one wants to get married on a Tuesday. So 30 years in the wedding industry, an absolutely huge achievement. You must have seen a lot of change in that time. So give me some of the highlights, some of the things that you've seen shift massively in our industry over the last 3 decades.
Oh God, where to begin? Well, I mean, just even like equipment wise that we use now, from going from, I started out on vinyl as records, back in the day. And now it's like, we have laptops of 70,000 songs. You no longer have to dig through a crate of records. And one of your jobs as a DJ, you would pull out the songs and be like, you try to be like 5-6 songs ahead, so you're constantly flagging stuff and doing stuff. So I would say like equipment has changed, but I also think our clientele has changed. Like as far as the way people like weddings are becoming more and more non-traditional. So gone are the days, and I'm from the Bay Area. So we have a lot of cultures and a lot of religions, and there's a lot of blending of different cultures and religions at weddings. So therefore, like I just did he was Jewish, she was Chinese. So we did the signing of the ketubah out in front of everyone, as well as the tea ceremony out in front of all the guests. So the Chinese side could see the signing of the ketubah, the Jewish side could see the tea ceremony. It was just like that, like all that kind of stuff. It's becoming more and more acceptable to not do all the traditions at weddings. I think that's changing. But even like business wise, it's just, from people DMing us through Instagram now, and just, communication, wanting to communicate through text message rather than email. So we had to go through and get a whole text messaging platform so we can communicate with clients, just staying up with all the, because, everyone says this is, you continue to get older, but your clients stay the same age, kind of thing. So how looking at that next generation, and how are we going to connect and relate with them to where they trust us to do their wedding.
Yeah, and there has been so much change. And I think particularly in the last 5 years, even 2 years with the rise of AI and technology, like the change is crazy. But you've seen it. You've been in the industry a long time, that trends come and go. Things that we should be doing in marketing come and go. How do you make decisions on what to chase and what to just kind of ignore, like it's a shiny object?
It's hard, I'll be honest with you, because you'll get, like right now, everyone's coming at us with hanging drapery installations. Like they want crazy swoopies and just, elaborate installations until they find out how much it costs. And then, they change their mind. So just, trying to find that trend that's going to be sustainable, that's going to make you money is not an easy thing to do. So a lot of it is trial and fire. I'm going to be honest with you. And if like for us, if we buy a chandelier or we buy a piece of equipment that just it's not selling, you got to learn to let go. Like, so we purge our warehouse and we purge, we look at, we use a really good software, inventory management software, and it'll tell us how many times a piece of equipment or a service item or whatever has gone out in that year. So if we look back and go, this is not working, or can we look at it and revamp it? Is there a way to tweak it and maybe make it more appealing to the couples? Kept trying to find a way. And if not, let's let it go. Let's move on,
And I think that's a really important piece, because I know that a lot of people in this industry are hoarders. We end up keeping...
We are.
Everything. Yes. And actually things are no longer in trend. And not only do we hoard the equipment, one of my biggest bugbears is we continue to hoard the terrible old-fashioned images on our website. Yeah. So we forget to update them. And we go and look at the website. I do website reviews for people and I say, I haven't seen that trend at a wedding in at least a decade. Why are we still putting it on our website? Yeah. And they say, but I just really liked that wedding 15 years ago. We need to let it go, everyone. We can enjoy it, but we can let it go. Nothing dates like old wedding pictures. Even my wedding pictures from 15 years ago, I look at them and I think, wow, I made some choices.
Well, same. I got married 17 years ago and we decided brown tuxedos were a cool thing. And we did brown tuxedos, and looking back, I'm like, I'm an idiot. I should have never done, what was I thinking? And anyway, but in the time I thought I was cool. So
yeah, absolutely. Now, a lot of businesses don't last the distance. I mean, both of us will have seen businesses come and go. I think a lot of businesses kind of tend to be around 3, 4, 5 years, and then they disappear or they change direction, they do different things. What do you think separates the businesses that last from those ones that kind of come and go?
I think you got to continue to reinvent yourself. So, for us, it was looking at, we have only been doing the lighting drapery chandeliers now for 15 years. And, so we reinvented ourselves 15 years ago. And part of it was out of a need. The venues in our area, so we're 45 minutes east of San Francisco, and that's without traffic. So with that said, the San Francisco vendors don't want to come out and work in our little wine country because sometimes it'll take them 2.5 hours to get out here, so they don't want to work out here. So a lot of it was the vendors were going, the venues were coming to us and saying, hey, have you thought about doing this? Can you look in, would you be open to maybe adding this, and that's how we've continued to grow, by listening to the folks we work with. And it all comes back to those relationships. If you have, great relationships with these venues, they're going to come, you're going to be their go-to person for everything,
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone's listening to this, maybe they're brand new into the wedding industry, maybe they're in their first year of business, what would you tell them to prioritize so that they can stay in business for the next 20 years? Is there certain things that you think either never fade, that are still important? You mentioned venue relationships. I'm sure that's one of them.
I was going to say the biggest thing is you got to start with developing relationships in your first year. So attending different networking events, going out and meeting people wherever and anywhere you can. If you are a planner, go, offer to help other planners, so you can get experience. You can do that with photographers. I've seen other florists help other I mean, it can go all around, but it just gets you experience, that's the biggest thing I think that goes through is we've been through the war, I always say you want to have a good group of wedding vendors with you when it goes. You want to go to war with them, And there's a bunch of photographers and florists and different. I would never want to go to war with, just in my experience with them over the years. So having those relationships and knowing who you can trust, and weddings are not perfect. Things happen, and some of it is completely out of our control. So who's going to be able to rise to the occasion? Who's going to be able to get in there and get dirty? I can't tell you how many times I've helped move chairs because the catering staff, so they were putting out a fire over here and the X needed to get done, and it was during cocktail hour, and then let me get in there and help. Those little something as little as that is going to cement a relationship with with another vendor, because I've helped photographers move their bags, or just help wherever you can. If you're not, if you're standing around picking your nose, help out.
Absolutely. And I think often that is neglected. It's looked over, especially when people start out. They think, I got to get a really shiny social media account. I need a shiny website. Well, yes, you do. But actually getting out and meeting as many people as you possibly can in this industry is definitely the fastest way to grow. And I think continues to be important. I mean, 30 years in, are you still getting out there and meeting people? Does networking still play a part?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're still out there. We're still getting involved. And then I get frustrated when we don't, when we get busy and we're not out there, because I'm like, we're missing the opportunity to meet, someone new, I'm like, we got it, like if we miss a couple meetings in a row because of, we're busy, we have our open, like WIPA in our area is planning their next open house. WIPA is big in the States here, but they're having their next, meeting locally on the day that we're doing an open house. So I'm like, how do we send one can we send somebody, because we're represented, like trying to figure all that out. I think it's really important. And even for us, we started a networking group called the Tri-Valley Wedding Professionals, which our little valley out here is called the Tri-Valley. And so, because a lot of our folks don't go to the city, they don't want to go network. So we actually created our own opportunity to network as well.
I love that. And actually, that's something I also encourage people to do, because often people say to me, well, there's nothing in my area. I say, well, start it then. Why don't you put something on in your area? It doesn't have to be super complicated. Even if it's just, get a few people together for coffee in a coffee shop, like put the meeting place out there, get people together. It's got to start somewhere. If there's nothing in your area, don't moan about it, start it.
Well, and it's kind of, that's how it happened for us. Everyone was complaining about, yeah, I go to San Francisco to the, association meetings, but I don't want to work in the city, or I'm not meeting anyone from here. And then that's when we got the idea, like you said, you just got to start it. And we started small. We just would get together and network. And now we have speakers and education. And, I was telling you before, we just had Renee Dallow, at our last meeting. And, so people are like, we become the must attend, type of events, because, and venues are like, hey, can we host you next year? We already have venues pushed out all the way till 2027 that are wanting to host us, so we've really built something really that's strong and vibrant, and that what people want. But it all started out, I'll be honest with you, with me begging, hey, would you please host us a little networking event? And, maybe can we do a cash bar? I was trying to figure out ways to how to put these on for free. And then I realized that no, at some point we had to start charging for them, and, paying people to do their job and all that kind of stuff as well. But again, you'd start, like you said, the coffee, get together with a group of photographers, planner, it could be whatever, in network, because especially if you're like a photographer, most photographers can only do one wedding a day, therefore you need a group of people that you can refer. Same with planners. A lot of planners don't have multiple planners on their staff, so developing that friender group that you can refer out to. And even some of the, we're a little bit of a bigger company, but we still need people that we need to refer to. I actually I went and grabbed a drink of water before this, and I heard one of my staff recommending one of our competitors, that's a friend. As I was walking in, I'm like, oh, what are we missing out on? I was kind of like, what are we missing out on?
Yeah, it's so important. So important.
Yeah.
I want to get personal with you for a minute.
Oh, sure.
Because
okay,
I also
sure.
want to help you reflect on your last 30 years. And we talked about evolution. We talked about how your business has changed. But I think as people, we also change. So I wondered whether you think your personal definition of success has changed over the last 3 decades, or whether it's always been the same, or whether your priorities, your success, your drivers have become different.
Oh, it's for sure changed. When I first started my business, I wanted to DJ everything and anything, because I wanted to be the one that was there. So if someone would come to me and goes, XY DJ company will do it for $250, I'm like, I'll do it for, I was doing everything and anything to be visible and be out there. And that obviously is not my priority now. So it's like, so I'm not willing to do everything and anything to kill myself like I did back in the day. I think the success for me right now is about having time to do the things I like with my family, having time. I am a Little League coach. I've coached Little League baseball for 18 years. And I've coached through all three of my kids. And I'm on my last one right now. And I probably have maybe 2 years left of coaching. But it's just like you have to have a good support group around you, but also making it a priority to family time, to travel. Like as a family, we love to travel. We love, we have Disneyland annual passes. So it's funny. I just took my daughter to school today and she's like, when are we going to Disneyland? So she's like, we're a little spoiled here because, we go 4, sometimes 5 times in a year, but it's just, that kind of stuff is my success. Being able to spend time with my family, travel, and that's what I love.
Yeah. And Kevin, you're speaking my language because my definition of success is more trips to Disney World. Absolutely every time. But I'm not going to let my children listen to this episode because they are going to be very jealous of your 4 or 5 trips a year because I'm telling them once every 2 years for us to fly to Florida is a lot. But they would love to go.
I mean, how long does it take you to get to Disney? It's like what, a 5-6 hour flight, right?
8 hours. 8 hours on a plane.
Yeah. You know how long it takes us? 55 minutes, and we're there on the airplane. So it's a little different. Like we literally will go down there and come back in 48 hours. Like sometimes just to because we love they'll have the Oogie Boogie Halloween party, or my wife and I went down, but we always try to go once without the kids. And it pisses them off, but we really love, and it's Disneyland without kids is such a great experience because you can do what you want when you want. You can go drink. We day drank over a California Adventure and sat there and watched everyone deal with their kids and celebrate the fact that we didn't have our kids, and it was we had a great time. But you got to have your fun. Enjoy your wins.
Absolutely do. And Kevin, I'm going to let you into another secret right here, right now on this podcast. We were just speaking before we recorded about how I'm coming out to Florida to speak in Florida in August. And I am absolutely booking myself an individual day ticket to Magic Kingdom, where I'm going to do a 1 day on my own Disney trip just to see what it's like to be a Disney adult without any children. And I know I'm going to love it.
I actually did that one time, but I did it with 2 staff members of ours. We were down there in the conference. We kind of decided that we didn't like the last day of speakers. And so we were like, yeah, let's all, and we did Magic Kingdom literally for the day. So you got to get in, get out, and go have fun. You've been to Epcot though, right? Have you been to Epcot?
I've been to all of the parks. I love them all. But Magic Kingdom, if I'm only going to do 1 day, I think it's going to have to be Magic Kingdom. But I'm flying in early, especially to do it. So that is, you're speaking my language. And I know lots of people listening to this podcast as well. Their definition of success is also more trips to Disney. Now, before we go down a total Disney rabbit hole, I want to talk about technology, because I think one of the biggest shifts, I said earlier, in the last few years, let alone the last 30 years, is the technology shifts for all kinds of wedding businesses. And I think actually it's one of the things people find the scariest sometimes, especially if they've been in business a long time and they don't feel like they are keeping up, or they say, yeah, the young people understand the technology, but I don't understand it. But I know that you are embracing technology. I know that you're all for evolving and using technology. So number one, I want you to tell people why they shouldn't be scared of technology.
Well, because you got to learn. I mean, you got to learn. You got to be where your clients are. And if their clients are using technology and they're going to be planning their wedding with technology, you got to learn to be there with them. Because some of these crazy photos we get are from Chat GPT, from the venue. They'll throw it in there, and it'll be from Claude or Chat GPT, whatever. And so you got to learn to be where they are, if that makes sense, and meet them where they are. I think that's part of it. So you gotta, I don't know. It's just, it is scary though. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do this. Another thing that we have to learn, or, I get a little old and curmudgeon every once in a while about this stuff, but it's, you have to continue to adapt. And I always say, someone told me a long time ago, it's adapt or die. And I really think the people that are resistant to something as simple as online meetings, or something as simple as having like a scheduler, just where make it easy. How can you make the process of working with you as easy as you can for your clients? Where it's having like a portal where documents are kept, or whatever, the way they communicate with you, getting a text platform, because like our phone, like we get maybe 15, 20 phone calls a week now, because everything is through email or through text.
Yeah,
and I think it blows your mind, because we used to get anywhere from 50 to 100 phone calls a day back in the day. You know what I'm saying? So it just, like, all that's been replaced.
Yeah, the method of communication has changed. And I think particularly in our industry, where we're having to find new clients and work with new people. And as you said, we're all getting older and the clients are staying the same age or getting younger, however you want to look at it. And actually, they are coming into it fresh. They expect us to meet them where they're at. They're living in a consumer culture that is full of technology. My daughter is 9 and she came home from school yesterday and said, "Mummy, I've been learning about AI prompts at school. Can we do some practice ones?" And I'm like, wow, okay, This is the next generation coming through at school. They're learning about AI prompts. So no wonder couples are going to be using AI. I mean, if she's learning that at 9 years old, it's terrifying to think when she gets married, what technology is going to look like.
It's going to be throwing the goggles on and they're going to be able to walk visually into a room, I can only imagine what it's going to be. I mean, it's probably not what they're going to be doing is probably not even been thought about yet. That's the best crazy part of the whole thing.
So I love recommendations on this podcast. I love to get practical. So I'd love to hear some of the tech, some of the apps that you're using in your business, or apps that you think people should be looking at in their wedding businesses.
Well, you got to have some basic stuff. You got to have like a note-taking app. So whether you're using Apple Notes, Evernote, OneNote, any of the, you got to have somewhere to drop. I am a huge, we went paperless several years ago, and I am a huge Remarkable. I don't know if you've heard of a Remarkable. I am like, I joke, if Apple buys any or creates anything, I pretty much buy it. I bought the stupid goggles, and that they sit in my on a shelf in my. I'm like maybe once a month I'll bring them out and update them, or do. I never use those things. It was the biggest waste of money. But that's how diehard I am for Apple, and I'm pretty much that way with Remarkable now. Like I eat, breathe, and sleep everything like through Remarkable. That's a big one. Something that we just started. Have you heard of Brick?
No, tell me about Brick.
Okay, so a lot of us struggle. A lot of us in the wedding industry have ADHD, and we are addicted to our phones. Well, Brick will lock you out of your phone, and so you tell it what apps you want it to not work during what times, and the only way to make it work is you go tap a little brick. And then you can unbrick it and get into whatever you need to do. But so that is for like focusing and you're working. But it's a little appy, but a little also you got to have a little bit of hardware with it as well. So that's another one I'm loving. There's one I've been using for years, which I've probably been using this app for at least 12 years. It's called Foxit PDF, and it's like reinvented itself so many different times. But I take all the documents, create one PDF for them for the wedding, throw it in there. And so now it's on everything I own. My iPad, it's everywhere. So now I no longer have a clipboard with paper. So again, we went paperless. And so now, and the greatest thing is I can write on this, I can change things and do things on there. And that's when I love that app.
What was that one called?
Foxit PDF.
Fox, as in Fox.
Yes, that is right.
Right, I'm going to make a note of that. Everyone listening, make a note of these apps because all of them are super helpful. What about CRM system? Do you use a CRM system in your business?
We do. We switch. So we resisted a CRM system for a long time because we use a software called Flex Rental Solutions, which is our inventory software, and it has I'm going to tell you the stupidest CRM connected to it. So we were like, oh, we're fine. And then we finally last year switched to having Dubsado. So we do Dubsado. I'm from interviewing people on there, there's Honeybook, there's 17 Hats, there's all kinds of different things out there. It really seems like in the wedding industry right now, Dubsado and Honeybook are kind of the two that people are going for that are non-wedding branded, because there's other ones out there that are like made for planners or maybe made for photographers or florists even have their own, but people that are going for more of it. And I just interviewed someone on the podcast and they were huge Dubsado fans, really, really love Dubsado.
I love CRM systems. It's one of the things that I tell all my clients to start paying attention to, especially if they're doing a decent number of weddings. I always say if you're doing, 10 weddings or less a year, you probably don't need it. If you're starting to do more than that, then absolutely, why would you not use the system? The system will do stuff for you. And I think one of the biggest minefields is picking the system, right? I think that's one of the hardest things people struggle with. But I always say, well, write down the process, write down what you want it to do, and then basically interview all these different systems. So ask AI who can do what and get your answers for you.
Well, and most of them you can get free trials to kind of try them out and just to see what you like and kind of poke around at it. But I will say we hired someone to help us with set up our Dubsado, and I know it's not cheap to do that, but I highly recommend hiring a professional to help you come in and because they know so much more about Dubsado. And the girl that we ended up using to help us, she came with so many ideas. Have you guys thought about this and having your workflow do X, Y, and Z? It was mind blowing the different things that we can do and that you can do, like from, just even upselling, helping your clients, giving them little educational tidbits, just keeping yourself top of mind. Because a lot of times people will get booked in the wedding process, but then don't contact the couple for another 6 to 9 months. So having little drips along the way where you're giving them a little, hey, here's your worksheet. Hey, and our next meeting will be in 2 to 3 months. I look forward to seeing you. If you have any questions, just little drips along the way that just help out and keep you top of mind and make it look like they haven't given you a bunch of money and you've gone away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fact that it's doing it automatically without you even realizing is one of my favorite things. And also what I say to clients when they come to me for CRM help is actually it means you're giving everyone a consistent service because because sometimes we have one client and we seem to be sending them reminders and talking to them all the time. And then other clients, because they're not bothering us, we don't talk to them at all. Whereas actually, at least if you've got kind of a workflow that everyone's going to at least get some of the check-ins and you're doing your clients a disservice if you're just ignoring them. And then they panic and then they get difficult.
I never thought about it that way, but until I was doing that podcast episode, and something that was really interesting to me was that, just like think about like this week for us is crazy busy, but I would have a system behind us that, that is doing its thing and still communicating with clients and still touch base, again, where if someone would reach out to us this Saturday, we have 9 events on Saturday, so it's just like, no one's going to get, a contact, but if someone sends an inquiry, hey, we'll be back to, it's going to get a response and it's going to show you care. And, there's a lot to that,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. What about appointment setting then? You mentioned that earlier. Do you do that through your CRM? Do you use a separate app for that?
I use Acuity. I'm a big Acuity person. My Megan Ely, which is a big joke that she's my sister, so I would say my sister uses Calendly. So but I love Acuity. I've been with it forever. Becca, I'm very loyal. Like I told you, so if I have an app and I will stick it out until it just flat out doesn't work anymore. I was a huge Evernote person, and I had a massive breakup with Evernote, a long time ago because they got greedy. They tripled their costs for the app in a year, and the services weren't as good. So I finally said, you know what, I'm going to take everything I do and took it to, of all things, Apple Notes, and it works just as good, if not better. And it's free. It's part of my app account. But with that said, I'm very loyal, so I'm going to stick with an app as long as I can. I'm not out there chasing the new shiny tool. There's people that'll do that, and I think you get burnt out really quickly on technology if you're constantly always chasing the next shiny thing. Yeah,
very true. Although one thing I would recommend people do actually is kind of a tech amnesty every year, is because often what we find is that these tech businesses are evolving, and sometimes we end up paying for two pieces of software, and then we realized that one of them now has the feature that the other one was doing, and now we're paying for two things when we could actually pay for one thing. So I do recommend, we don't change all the time, but I recommend people do review their systems like once a year and go, right, what are all the things I'm paying for, and actually can other things do those things within the one thing I'm paying for already?
I call it sanitize. So it's kind of funny. So I always tell everyone you need to sanitize your phone at least two. I'm a little bit more aggressive. I think you need to do it 2-3 times a year, because a lot of it too is you have these apps on, whether it's on your desktop, on your iPad, or your smartphone, Android or Apple. It's constantly updating in the background and doing things, and so go through, and I don't use this anymore. Stop paying for it and delete it. You don't even need it on your device anymore. So I'm a big believer. I call it sanitize. Get out there and clean it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. What about AI tools? Because that's obviously the talk of the moment. And I'm finding it interesting to talk to people about what, if any, of the AI tools they're using, whether they've changed AI tools. So what are you using in the way of AI?
So Grammarly, I've been using forever. I'll be honest with you. I've had that around, and it continues to evolve and continues to get, like, I have it now. It's on all my devices. Like when I first got it, it was just, I would have to take what I was going to do, put it in a little, the software, it would update it for me, and then recopy and paste it and bring it back in. Now it's in every, from web browsers to email platforms to even on my iPhone to even text messaging. The other day, I was like saying something, it goes, it like suggesting and prompting me to be smarter than what I really am, to be honest with you, helping me through it. So that, I swear by Grammarly. I was English. I use English as my first language, but I always joke that English is not my first language because I was never good at English in school. So I failed freshman English and had to take it as a sophomore. I had to take sophomore and freshman English the same year. Part of it was I was, silly and didn't do my work. But the other part was it doesn't interest me. It's not a big thing. I'm not into it. So Grammarly helps me sound like a normal human being. So, and from there, it seems like the whole world is abandoning Chat GPT and going to Claude. So, and Claude is continuing to get, it's limitless. It's crazy what you can do, out there. But then even, have you heard Zapier? So integrating, so there's a couple different apps that you can make your apps talk to each other and do different things. So that I think having something, I'm all about, will it save me time or money? So I'm willing to spend money if it's going to save me time. And that's how you look at it. Because a lot of people look at these apps, like that Foxit PDF I was telling you about. Like I would be happy to pay for that app because I use it all the time, but I've never got to the threshold of it where I've ever needed to pay for it, But I'm a big believer, and I use Todoist a lot, and we still use it as like our project management tool internally. There's Basecamp, there's all kinds of other ones you can use, but so having paying for things, if you're going to do Claude, you're going to do Chat GPT, you're going to use any of these other ones, Gemini or whoever it is, pay for it because you're going to, it unlocks so much more. And it's so, for the $20 or whatever it is a month, you're going to get so much time back that it doesn't even equate. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. I think sometimes we're resistant to paying for things, but actually at £15 a month, if it's saving you more than an hour or less than an hour, depending on your hourly rate, probably even half an hour, then you've absolutely paid yourself back because you can do more with that time. I think the ChatGPT thing's interesting. I've been saying for the last 3 months, I heard it said that they think that ChatGPT is going to be like MySpace to Facebook. So everyone went on MySpace. It was the biggest thing. It was the first social media. And then everyone jumped ship and went to Facebook. And that's basically what's happening right now in AI. Everyone's jumping ship from ChatGPT and going to Claude.
Well,
ChatGPT did it first.
In the
Claude,
States,
I think, is where it's at right now.
Well, and in the States, a little bit of it is because they got a little political, I think, ChatGPT did. And so they're backing a president that's not very well liked. And so I think that's half of it as well. So
yeah, and actually, I think that the ethics are better just all round when it comes to Claude. I've done a lot of looking into the sustainability, the ethics of it. And yeah, right now, Claude's where it's at. I think it will continue to change as the tools continue to change. And I think what's interesting as well is is definitely the integration phase, which for anyone that's a bit more advanced with the technology may want to start thinking about is how do all these things integrate and talk to each other. So now I have Claude, which is attached to my Notion. Notion has all of these notes, and the Claude can interact with it. It interacts with my diary. It does me a daily PA briefing. It tells me what I've got coming up. It looks at my objectives. It tells me what to do. And so suddenly all this technology that we've already been using can now start to speak to each other.
And that's a big deal. The sooner it speaks to each other, the better. So that's, I don't know. That's like, I like Apple having everything. Like for me, I'm Apple. And so like it all just like speaks to each other and works and seamlessly behind the scenes.
Yeah, so true. Do you want to know my biggest tech success recently was changing to a MacBook. So now I can just airdrop things from my phone to my MacBook rather than having to send them to myself via email or WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger. I'm like, why did I not do this sooner? Why was I clinging on to my desktop computer? Why I should have just switched to Mac. So it all talks to each other and makes a whole lot more sense. So
I was going to say, even like family wise, like even because we are on the family plan and it just like, it's so, like if I drop an appointment in on my calendar, it shows up on everyone, on my kid's phone, my wife's phone. It just, you got to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one more quick one, I was going to say, an oldie but a goodie. Yeah, for AI that I still think has a lot of value is Canva. Canva has they're really investing in a lot of AI features right now, which is great for your social media, creating posts and doing, like helping you with stories and different things. There's a lot of stuff that Canva's doing right now. And it seems like as a company, even though they've been around forever, they're continuing to evolve and do some good stuff right now.
Yes, and Canva's a great one. And actually, there may be people listening that don't use Canva, because I met someone the other day in business who said they'd never heard of Canva, and I could not believe it. I was like, your life is about to change for the better because you are going to see Canva. So yeah, if anyone is listening and hasn't been on Canva for a while, looked at Canva for a while, or never even heard of it, absolute game changer for great graphic design in your business and makes life so much easier. What did any of us do without Canva? I don't know.
I have no idea, to be honest. Well, no, it just makes the graphic artist side, because it used to be so difficult to get anything made or printed. And now even like for weddings, we can create cool little signs in minutes, where before we'd have to send it off and have it made, it was a whole process. And now it's just like done. Check it off the list.
So you've given me loads of tools. Could you narrow it down? What is the one piece of tech in your business that your business couldn't survive without?
I'll be honest with you. It's the Flex Rental Solutions. It's because, and the reason being is our inventory, like when our salespeople are out selling, they need to know, if we have 15 of an item, how many do we have available that day? So, I mean, for us, it's the inventory management software. We could not live without that. We've been on it now, maybe like 10 to 12 years. And we used to do it all with Excel spreadsheets, believe it or not. And still this day, it blows my mind that I'm like, how do we not mess up and not have enough of something for a wedding? Because now our software alerts us, hey, idiot, you booked too many of these. You either need to buy or substitute, or we would not survive as a company without that software.
And it's made your life so much easier. But yet, I guarantee there are people listening to this podcast right now that are still doing it from an Excel spreadsheet. And so again, I would encourage you, there is better ways out there. There's easier ways out there. It's probably not as expensive as you think it's going to be. And once you get over that hurdle of starting to use it, it will save you so much time and cause you less problems and headaches.
Yeah. And then it costs us, I think we're about almost $350 a month that we pay for that software, which it seems like a big chunk of change. The amount of time, I can immediately jump in here and go to August, of 2027 and look at how many inquiries we have and what, how many pieces of equipment is people are requesting that day. And it just, you have to have you got to have the right tools if you're going to be in business and do it the right way.
So how do you decide on technology? Where are you finding this technology from? Is it recommendations from friends? Is it that you go out there and look for technology? Is it podcast interviews like this one? Where do you hear about things? Where do you pick up your information?
I'm going to be honest, like before it was going to conferences, just like following like techie, like stuff on Apple News, like just following tech as much as I could. And now it's like talking to other wedding pros. Even like when I'm out networking, like I'll be like, hey, what kind of tech are you using now? What's going, like just, and that just, it's a simple question to ask that spurs a big old long conversation. And most of the time, a big answer. If you ask someone that's maybe a little older, you might get, nothing, but like ask someone a little younger and like, what are you doing? Or, what have you seen clients come at you with new tech? What are they using? Or what's going on? And just ask, because that's, I think, having the people that do it with the boots on the ground, and that's where you get a lot out of that, I think, to be honest with you. But yeah, now it's, like conferences, podcasting, asking, hosts, the guests, like what have they been doing, or how do you use that, or, all that kind of stuff. And then get experimental, look out there, ask good old Claude, hey, what are the, I'm a wedding business and this is what I do. What kind of tech should I be using? I did that recently. So it was just curious.
Yeah. And it will often give you a good answer. I was talking recently on this podcast about when I did my Wed Pros live conference, and I was looking for a piece of technology that would give me a guest list that people could then interact with and see who else was going to be at the conference. So I started asking Claude about what technology I should use, how much it would cost me. And then basically Claude turned around and said, I'll just build it for you for free. And I was like, great. Thank you very much. I will.
Oh my gosh.
And
it worked.
Yeah, it took me 10 minutes. It said, just put in an Excel spreadsheet of all the people that are coming and we'll create you something in your brand colors. And it did. I put it on my website and everyone could interact with it. So yeah, ask the technology about other technology and ask your peers and friends as well.
Yeah.
If you've got a problem in your business, I think often technology, you need to know what the problem is you're trying to solve, and then you can find the technology to solve it. There's no point just going after something without knowing what you're trying to fix.
And to be honest with you, when I would speak on technology at conferences, I would always say, ask Google, exactly what you said, ask. But now I always say, ask your AI, because they're going to give you a much better answer. And I never like that. You're the first person that ever said they built it for you. That's absolutely mind blowing, because think about, you were probably willing to spend money, like big money, to get this to work. And it cost you this much money, that's the best part.
Yeah, so. Exactly. And I love it because it was unbiased and it just told me it would build it for me. Whereas if I'd have gone to any of those companies, they'd have said, no, you need to pay me X amount of money in order to do that. And, I appreciate that there's some things that where the company will do it better. But in this instance, it fixed it for me. Now, on the train of AI, because at the moment, I'm in a bit of a love-hate relationship with AI. And I think we definitely need to be embracing it as an industry. But there are some things about it that I'm absolutely hating and are overhyped. So I'm going to give you some examples. Number one, posters made with AI. I don't know about you, but everywhere I look at the moment on Facebook or Instagram, people are making posters with AI, but they all look the same. Like they're a kind of a different variation, but it's so obvious. Like the design looks so the same. So that's driving me crazy. The second thing is podcast pitches. People pitching to be on my podcast, and all of their emails sound the same because they've clearly been written with AI. And they all say, hi, Becca. I recently listened to episode 129 with Kevin Dennis, and he said this, and it really resonated with me. Please, can I be on your podcast? Except they all say the same thing. So do you think it's overhyped, or do you think we should be embracing it?
No, I think we have to embrace it. I'm going to be honest with you, because like you go back to the example where it saved you time and money, but also you got to be smart with it, and you can't take everything it does for you and run with it, because you got to remember these, they're like glorified hospitality workers, these AI, because they're there to please you, right? And so they're going to feed you all the things you want to hear that make you feel good, right? So you got to learn to, like tell it not, give me 5 constructive, answers, or, like you got to kind of set parameters. Don't tell me everything I want to hear, you got to, there's a I saw something recently online, and it's slipping my mind right now, but it was basically everything you have to feed your AI to tell it so it won't feed you a bunch of bullshit. You just have to really, because it really will. So, but I really think we have to embrace it, just from the time saving feature to all of our clients. I can't tell you how many photos we receive that are I want to do this. And some of it is so unrealistic what they want, and so you have to pick it up. I don't like, at first I was like, how the hell did someone do, like I was like, well, how did that happen? There's no way this happened. And then I'm like, this is AI. And then I started getting hip to it eventually. I was easily fooled the first couple times, but, like we had this beautiful lawn area and they wanted a chandelier suspended over the center of the dance floor. Well, there's nothing, like there's no rigging structures, nothing around. And I'm like, the only way to do is like a big crane is like drop the chandelier and it's way off in the distance, Anyway.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems with it, isn't it? The unrealistic expectations when people see stuff and they either don't realize it's made with AI or they're trying to achieve the impossible. And I think for us as business owners, as wedding business owners, we need to, yes, embrace it, but we also need to work out when to use it and when not to use it. And I think there's times when I want to see personality. So if you're pitching to be on my podcast, I want you and your personality to shine through. I don't want the robot. But if you're doing my daily PA briefing and telling me what to do today, well, that's a great use case for AI because I don't need personality from that. I just need someone to tell me what to do. And I think now we're entering an era where we need to work out when to use it and when not to use it.
Yeah, and that's good advice. I think that you just gave right there because I've started to get the same thing where the pitch where they're using the exact number and said who the guest was and what they like. And now that you said it, I've gotten about 4 or 5 of them in the last couple of weeks. And you're right. It's all pitched through AI. So you got to learn to, and that's it. Make it learn your voice too. And, like I'm sassy. So I want you to be a little sassy when you speak or, and you're like, hey, great. That's good. But now let's make it friendly or let's turn, like don't just take what they give you and run with it. There's ways to tweak some of this stuff too, to make it more sound like you. So,
yeah. And also I think like I'm all for people not losing their confidence. I worry sometimes that, when people are doing things that are outside their comfort zone, like pitching to a podcast, which I know many people listening to this will want to do. I think don't lose your confidence and feel like you've got to give that job to someone else because actually you are worthy of being on my podcast if you've got something to say, but you're much more likely to stand out from the crowd by just being authentically you. Because as soon as it looks like AI to me, I'm just like, delete, because you're not showing me who you are. You're not giving me any value. So I worry as well that maybe people are losing confidence in themselves and thinking, I don't have the confidence. I can't write this as well as AI. But actually, there's some things that you can do better than AI. Yes, there's some things that AI can do better than you, but as people, there's some things that we can do better. And we don't want to lose ourselves to the platform, to the technology.
No, I agree with you on that. It's so true. You got to be, that's why clients hire us is because they like it's about the company, maybe the brand, but it's more the people and they hire you because of who works for you, who they meet. That just, it's funny. We were setting up a wedding last weekend and the bride goes, oh my God, there's Nolan. And she goes, I met him at the open house. And she went over and like started talking to him. And I'm like, look at you. You got a little fan over there, buddy. I was giving him a bad time, but I was just, but that's what it's about. It's about connecting with people. People want to do business with people they like. So.
Yeah, which is great because that takes us full circle, Kevin, to what you said earlier on in the episode about longevity in business. And yes, we want to embrace these trends. Yes, we want to find ways to save our business time. But ultimately, if we want to still be here in 10, 20, 30 years' time, then networking, connections, relationships is the way to do it. Kevin, it's been such a joy to have you on the podcast. Now, I always end my podcast with the same question, which I did ask you way back when you were back on the podcast before. So I'm going to see whether or not you give a similar answer or if things have evolved. But the question is this: what's one thing you personally wish you'd known sooner in your own business?
All right. I've never felt so much pressure as I feel right now. I'm going to be honest with you, but I bet you it's going to be different because I thought about this when I got the email from you about the last question, and it's about time and being guarded with your time in your business because for some reason right now, it's about spending time with the kids, having like I was telling you earlier, I would take homework and do work at night and different things like that. It's just, I am very guarded with my time now and just that it's okay to be guarded with your time. And it's okay to have the boundaries with your clients because, like I only do client meetings on certain days and I only do, like Tuesdays is an internal day. We only do internal meetings and all that kind of stuff. Like we've really kind of set boundaries on how we operate. And it's become like such a stress relief to have like a routine. And I find that I'm a little bit more relaxed and I spend more time with my family.
I love that. So important. Do you want to know what you said last time?
Yes, I'm dying to know because you wouldn't tell me earlier. You were so mean to me.
What you said last time, which actually I think still resonated throughout this episode, was not to be afraid of change. That's what you said last time. Not to be afraid of change. So I think, Kevin, you're still living that truth. You're not afraid of change. And I love the timepiece because that's been big for me in the last couple of years, is not only valuing my time, but also when I'm giving other people that time, being more present, because it's so easy to be distracted. It's so easy to pick up our phone, and actually being present and not on our phones is actually the best way we can spend our time. Kevin, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. Again, I'm going to make sure I put links to as many of those pieces of technology in the show notes as I possibly can. But if anyone's listening and they heard something and I've forgotten to put it in there, reach out to myself or to Kevin and we'll send you a link. Kevin, if people want to find out more about you, about your podcast, where are the best places for them to find you?
It's pretty simple. It's FSES events for Fantasy Sound Event Services. Wedding_IQ for Wedding IQ, and then Mind Your Wedding Business. And then Now That I'm Engaged is our Instagram handle for that podcast. So you can reach out there. Our website, fantasysound.com, weddingiq.com. I'm really easy. Kevin at Fantasy Sound, Kevin at weddingiq.com for email. You reach out and send me an email and pitch me about what was it? 129 or whatever. Give me the generic podcast pitch.
Yeah, do not pitch Kevin or me with an AI generated podcast. And if you are going to be on either of our podcasts, what do you need to do? Buy yourself a microphone. And we'd love to have you on. Kevin, it's been fun. I hope to see you somewhere soon, possibly even in Florida.
I will see you in Florida. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you for being here.
Bye.
Love that episode with Kevin. Always great to chat with him. And what I loved about that is how much we can learn from his 3 decades in business about how things have changed, how he's evolved, but how some things stay absolutely the same, and the value that he puts on relationships and networking. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. As I said before, if there's anything that you missed that we talked about and you can't find the link in the show notes, reach out to one of us and we'll try and send it over to you. I'll see you all next time.